There are all kinds of questions about, is the
Yes.
monarchy even viable in today's world, or does
I
it
don't
fill?
know.
And I think it actually does fulfill some wonderful ceremonial roles and stuff that I think that our president has a hard time fulfilling both the executive function and the
Yes.
ceremonial
Well,
function.
I think that it's an awful lot to expect one person to do.
It is,
I
and also they're very different.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
role,
Quite different.
the ceremonial role where you need to respect the person, which
Yes,
is the
sir.
crux of the problem with Charles III, but not
Yes.
particularly with his mother, requires a certain standard of behavior, whereas the guy actually running the government, doing the political deals,
Yes.
all the rest of it, is something else. I think that's why we get so outraged over something like Bill Clinton and Monica,
Yes.
because it didn't actually affect his ability to function
No.
as the chief executive, but it really
Yes,
blew away
yeah,
the
social side
respect
of it,
and
yes.
the
Well,
way
this
you
is
could function.
one of the things that I think it's good to have a monarch in whom you can invest your respect and so forth, and a political head that you can get rid of if he's out of line, because we can do it with a vote of no confidence overnight.
Exactly.
We don't have to impeach him for anything. We just say, look, you're no longer our first choice. You're out of step, fella. We vote against you, and you're gone tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And we don't feel as if we've committed suicide in front of the world.
Very true. The parliamentary system
Kind of a
is an
safety valve.
interesting
Yes,
system.
it's not perfect.
No.
By any means, but it does have some really good qualities in that all this intense loyalty and the social side goes towards somebody who's trained for it, and yet they don't have the power, other than by example, to change the political things.
Right.
And
Well,
if
it'll be
you
interesting to
have
see
a rare
how it
step-
survives, Scotland and Wales and sort of
Oh,
separatism and all the
please,
other.
don't go into
I won't
Scottish
go there.
government. No,
we'll
please
not do
don't.
that. Okay. So back to mystery.
I shall have to get into all black.
Back to mystery. So No Graves as Yet is the first book, and you say you've completed the second one.
I have
and
delivered the second one. My editor ought to have it by now.
Which
7
is-
drafts.
which is called
Shoulder the Sky.
Shoulder the Sky. Ooh,
Well, that's
sounds like a Western.
Well, it comes from Houseman.
Right.
For if today the cloud of thunder lowers, tomorrow it will high on far behests. The flesh will grieve on other bones and hours soon, and the soul will mourn on other breasts. The troubles of our proud and angry dust are from eternity and shall not fail. Bear them we can, and if we can, we must. Shoulder the sky, my lad, and drink your ale.
Wow.
And if you think, that's just the last 2 stanzas,
Right.
if you think of a man in the trenches, he's got the earth, the clay, to either side, back and front and beneath him. The only part of the sane world that he knows and remembers and cares about is the sky.
Absolutely true.
And I feel as if some of those men in that first time of the war did carry the burdens of the sky on their shoulders. They held it up for us.
Was that Shropshire Lad or
Yes.
whatever? Yeah.
Well, he is the one who wrote the Shropshire
Right,
Lad.
right.
Yes.
I was trying to remember. I haven't read it for years.
All the names come from war poems. The middle one will be Angels in the Gloom, which is Siegfried Sassoon. And the 4th one is At Some Disputed Barricade. I have a rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade, when spring comes back again to earth, etc. And the last one is We Shall Not Sleep, and that's from Poppies Blow on Flanders Field.
You really thought this through, didn't you?
Oh yes, before Joe bought it, he had a 100-page outline of all 5 books.
Tremendous. You haven't really done that before, have you? In the
No,
sense
I
of,
haven't.
And you do see this as 5 finite books.
Absolutely,
I mean, when
yes.
it's over, because you're at the end of the war.
Yes. I mean, what I'll do after that, I have no idea, but that's a little way down the pike. I really am excited about it because it's different, it's a challenge. It really is difficult. It's stretching me as far as I can go.
I can
And
see
that's
that.
good.
Well, I remember we talked last
Yes.
year. I remember how excited you were about it. How's the reception been for it? Have you been happy with the reactions?
I'm very grateful for it, yes. It's, the first week it came out, it was number 14 on the Times list. And that for the world, as far as I'm concerned, is the list. But I've had good reception from ordinary people. I'm just into my 3rd week on tour, and I care very much what readers think, and I've had some very fine and very moving things said to me. And the interesting thing is to me that there are more male readers now than I've had before.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yes.
It's soldiers. You're doing things with armaments rather than laundry.
Yeah, well, yes, that's
I always
true.
love your books because laundry always figures into the
Well,
books, in the
it's
Victorian
kind of
books.
interesting, yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
know it.
Laundry and baking, but
Yes, they
particularly
do.
laundry. 'Cause they
Laundry.
was so different. Baking is a bit more like the same.
And they're essential, too. I mean,
Yes.
if you're, as I am, a habitué of English country houses,
Yes.
I've always remembered there was a wonderful country house in Yorkshire, and they said to me so apologetically when I arrived to look, they said, well, we don't have a kitchen, they said, but we have a really good laundry.
Oh, yes.
And as though I were going to flee, you know. But I thought the laundry was totally fascinating. I mean, it was an entire industry within the household, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, they just sheer before dry cleaning and before washing machines and detergents and all, laundry was just like a, you know, mountain of work every day.
Yes, and with our climate, you had to be able to dry things inside.
Right, I love all those, you know, things you hoist up to the ceiling.
We had one of those when I was a child, a clothes rack. You pull up to the airing rail, you pull up to the ceiling. Because if it's raining outside or just damp, your sheets are never going to get...
Even the airing cupboards the linens were kept in had slotted shelves and all, right?
Absolutely.
So that, you know, that air could circulate. I mean, the American linen closet is totally different.
Yes,
it's just a closet, you know, with solid shelves, because you're not worrying about all these issues of damp and all the rest.
Yes, but they do have. I can remember racks like that, and very often they're over the heater.
Right, exactly. You could have a heat source, and
of
course that whole wonderful British heated towel rack in the bathroom, you know, which in Arizona I have to say is not frequently called for.
No.
Well, no, there are times, but I mean it's a real pleasure when traveling in England, you know, and you're freezing to death. It's the only place I really take baths. I mean, I'm a shower person, but in England, I just cannot wait to soak in a really hot bath. I mean, when you're truly cold, it's the only way to really warm up. You know?
Yes, if I had heating in only one room in the house, it would be the bathroom.
That's right, and then you get those
tripping off in an unheated bathroom into a nice steaming hot bath, preferably one where you push a button and it bubbles a bit, and then put one of these aromatic oils in.
Yes, that's all very nice, and then you get a nice hot towel off the towel rack when you emerge. I mean, how sybaritic is that? It's great. They didn't have those in the trenches.
They didn't very often get a bath at all.
No, I know. God, you know, think about how they must have just, I mean, not only the lice and the rats and all, but they must have just smelled.
Yes.
And their teeth must have rotted and all, just ghastly.
But the smell of the trenches, you could smell them 2 or 3 miles away. Mostly the smell of rotting bodies, but a bit the latrines, of course.
Yeah.
Not much
What was
privacy.
the central dilemma in the second book?
Well, this is 1916, April. Oh, we touch on the death of Rupert Brooke, but just because it happens at that time. The first gas attack, and how much truth do you tell?
Ah, okay, you mentioned that earlier, that if they made it brutally clear, then people might not continue to enlist.
As you said, it was a volunteer army. Most of the British Expeditionary Force that the Kaiser referred to as a contemptible little army, and the old contemptibles, it's about I can hardly even say it without choking up. The last of them were about 105, 106 years old, still alive.
Really? Are there still some?
Yeah, there are still some, yes. But they're, you know, older than most of us get to be. Because they were just about either wiped out, dead, or injured, we were relying upon volunteers or we would lose.
Sure.
And if you have a bright reporter who's going to go back and say, well, this is what it's like, or Gallipoli.
Okay. So you're trying to muzzle something? I mean, is the question about muzzling a reporter who might want to tell it like it is when you don't want them to?
Do you want to know?
Well, not right here on television,
no,
but you can tell me later.
Yes,
but I mean, I can sort of see how that would go.
But Joseph has dilemmas. Particularly, he goes out to Gallipoli looking for the peacemaker, the arch villain of the whole thing, or arch enemy at least.
Right.
And he sees what's happening in Gallipoli, and he finds a reporter, a very fine reporter, who wants to go back and tell everybody exactly what a chaos it is.
Yes, Gallipoli was not Churchill's famous tower.
No, it wasn't.
And for those of you who don't know, Gallipoli was in the Caucasus. Well, it's in Turkey.
The Dardanelles.
Right? The Dardanelles.
It's the straits, but that separate Europe and Asia.
Well, it's where the Black Sea exits into the Aegean. And in fact, a central question for Russia throughout its entire history was whether it could have a warm water port, because all of its oceanfront property, so to speak, was up there frozen, and so the Black Sea, but it had to get out past.
The idea was that we would free the Russian Grand Fleet and give them Constantinople as a prize.
Right.
We kind of blew that one.
Well, it actually is a strategy. I don't know that it was all that terrible, but unfortunately the execution was just brutal.
They didn't research it well enough.
Right.
To find out. I mean, some of the men who landed on the beaches didn't even know there were cliffs, and the Turks were jolly sight better soldiers than we'd given them credit for.
Yeah.
A bit stupid. But
it was a slaughter. It was a different version of D-Day, in fact.
Yes,
it didn't work out quite so well.
It was a slaughter. And this war correspondent, who's a main character in and out all the stories, he is going to write it up. And Joseph has to make his decisions what he's going to do. But he's a priest, he can't kill the man.
Well, not theoretically.
No,
yeah.
but, well, it's difficult, put it that way.
Right.